Hello, I'm Alan Keller. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Success here at Zuma. And welcome back to our expert webinar series on multifamily operations, where we're unpacking the topics that matter the most to running a world-class property management team. Today's topic, making every dollar count, smarter marketing budgets in multifamily, where we're going to unpack how top operators are using strategy, data, and creativity to drive leasing performance up and costs down. And the reality is, we're in a world of hyper-competitiveness. We have rising ad costs, fragmented lead sources, limited team bandwidth, so our marketing efficiency has never been more important. And how do we decide where to spend, how much to spend, and how to know if it's working? How do we balance brand building with performance marketing and stretch our dollars to deliver more leases per campaign? I'm super lucky to be joined by three incredible marketing leaders who have really mastered the art and science of efficient marketing in multifamily. So let's get into it. All right, so I'm joined here by three really incredible marketing leaders who have absolutely mastered the art and the science of efficient marketing in multifamily. So we have Justin Godwin, the Senior Director of Marketing and Communications at Cushman Wakefield, Amanda Maclin, the Senior Director of Strategic Services, also at Cushman Wakefield, and Ryan Funt, who's the Vice President of Marketing at Fitzrovia. Starting with the strategic lens, I guess the overall question I have is, when you're planning your marketing budget, right, coming into 2026, or you're looking maybe a little bit more narrowly, let's say at the first half of 26, do you have a framework or a philosophy that's guiding your allocation? And then I got lots of questions that will flow down, from that, but maybe just at the highest level, what are the mental models or frameworks that you're using to even start to answer the question? And maybe Amanda, we can start with you.
Sure. This is the first time I felt a huge change in a shift in the way I was planning marketing or we're planning marketing. The biggest one for me is obviously using data insights to determine where are we going to reallocate money. And the reason is because of the increased usage of AI platforms, ChatGPT, Gemini, all of those. So people are doing long tail searches now where they used to just go in and say apartments for rent near me, and then they would find an ILS and they would go to that. One of the things that's a huge factor in how you are showing up in those AI models is your SEO. Now we're reallocating a lot of our PPC budget to SEO efforts, that long-term play. Well, I'm not saying we're getting rid of ILSs, just so you know. That used to be what everybody wanted to talk about a few years ago. What I'm saying is, can we reallocate some of our money where we're paying to play to show up organically? And in the large language models, we are already ranking top. SEO is a long-term play, but it's positioning Cushman and Wakefield to be better stewards of our clients' money is what we're trying to do.
Organic has never been more important than today. People are using, Instagram as like a search engine these days, right? And if you can create really good content, like I think that there's great value to that. And I agree with Amanda, right? Like you really need to think about SEO, and it is certainly embarrassing when you kind of go into ChatGPT and you search up top 5 apartments in Denver, and your community doesn't come up, right? Like you really need a good organic strategy to make it all fit together.
Can we compete in that space in organic search with the big players like ILSs? The answer is yes. We have done that test. We just chose a random region and we chose Dallas, Texas, of course, San Antonio, Austin was one, Houston the other. And over the course of 60 days, we went from not appearing or appearing on page maybe 3 or 4 to consistently being number 1. So if you do it right, yes, the answer is yes, you can rank above everybody else and actually reign supreme.
Everyone has a different way of searching for apartments, right? And so you do have to be everywhere. Renters are smartening up, right? They're now looking at, our Google business pages and saying, well, that looks a little too shiny for me, right? That 4.9 or a 5.0. And so they're taking to Reddit. The point that I'm trying to make is you need to have a comprehensive strategy. You need to be everywhere. And if you do choose to be everywhere, you can't take any shortcuts. Like you need to have a strategy for every single platform. And you have to think marketing funnel, right? You have to think, point of discovery down to the tour path, right? Because it all is important.
If you're looking in ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, any of those, they're indexing Reddit too. And so when you're doing those searches, oftentimes the good, the bad, the ugly, the Reddit article is showing up. So it is important if you're on Reddit to make sure that that content is good, clean, relevant content.
So my goal is to keep about roughly 10% of my budget fluid so that we can shift quickly when absorption slows at a lease up, or concessions start really hitting a market hard, or when we happen to achieve a really high occupancy and we need to pull back. But it also gives me that flexibility to test out those new products and services that might give us some additional benefit. Having that little bit of wiggle room makes it possible for us to go in and test those products and step back after 30, 60, 90 days, evaluate what the results are, and determine if we want to maintain it, increase it, or cut it out completely. Getting buy-in from your operators, from your clients, you're not going to be able to test that new shiny thing or make any changes unless you get their buy-in. So I think it's not about directing and pointing and saying, we need to try this. You need to tell them the how and the why. They want to know not just what we're proposing and what we are saying the end result is going to be, but they want to know why we're proposing it and how exactly we're going to get to that end result.
Recently went into an ownership meeting and I said, let me tell you what we have found through our data insights. This marketing source is giving you quantity of leads, but not quality of leads. So we are going to say, we're going to save you $750 by doing away with that marketing source. I'm going to reallocate it to something that I believe, and through case studies and so forth that we've researched, is going to drive you the quality of traffic that you need. And I'll report back in 90 days. I will tell you, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'm pretty much 100% success rate when I go in with that mentality. If I go in there and say, well, we want to try this, I'm not confident in what I'm doing, I'm not coming with the data behind the decision, and they don't buy in. So you have to go in educated and with a plan.
It's so easy for an ownership group to say, my product is super amazing, turn on the taps on everything, we should be everywhere. But if the data doesn't support being everywhere, then you're using marketing sources for theater and show just to satisfy an ownership group. That's not using marketing dollars efficiently, right? So it's, to Amanda's point, it's about having the courage to say, we're only going to use this one source, right? Like if Google SEM is driving a cost per prospect tour lease that's super cheap, and it's the only source you use, but it's driving conversions, it's getting you the absorption you need, then that should be the source that you use. You shouldn't just be on, random websites and spending on additional display ads because you're trying to appease stakeholders, right? Like if you have the data to support why you're on certain channels, then you have the data, and that should speak for itself.
I'm glad that we transitioned to the data discussion. I assumed it was going to go here relatively quickly, just with your all backgrounds, and I'm also a data nerd as well. How do you de-risk or maybe get better visibility into attribution? And do you still find that this is a bit of a dark art of trying to attribute, or are you just making sort of a model framework where you're like, we're just going last touch, all right? That's what we're using. Or, like where does the industry sit at this point in time related to attribution?
Multi-factor attribution has been the brass ring of our industry and nobody's caught it yet. I don't chase perfect attribution because it just doesn't exist in multifamily yet. But we are working with some of those partners that are almost there. So until we solve what is the brass ring, I look for patterns. So for example, if a prospect touches 5 channels before leasing, the goal isn't to crown a winner for their or to their jumping off point. It's really to understand which touch points consistently help push that momentum forward. I care more about the assisted conversions than the last touch conversion, because last touch attribution is a lazy metric that over rewards some sources like property, website, and it really undervalues everything else.
I would fully agree with everything that Justin just said. In fact, that was a really great recap for the entire industry. Maybe just to elaborate, like we also take a very holistic approach here at Fitzrovia, right? And just because a platform like Meta isn't showing as a direct conversion for a lease doesn't mean it's not driving incredible impact, right? Like, what a shame to look at your reporting and say, "Oh, no leases for Meta this month. Like, I guess we should probably turn that off," right? Like, you have to look under the hood a little deeper, right? Uh, Case in point, like if Meta is a great referral source to your property website and it's driving, 40, 50% of your traffic, then maybe we should consider that as a data point as well, right? So I think before you decide to turn off a certain source, like you really need to be asking the right questions and you have to be looking at multiple data points.
I agree. I totally agree with both. Justin, I already know because we work on this all the time together. But to Ryan's point about Meta or whatever is driving the social aspect, I know it falls under marketing, but it's also a brand awareness piece and also a retention piece and a referral piece. You said this earlier is I want to know what it feels like to live at that community. And the best source to be able to convey that message is through Meta, through the social outlets. So also very important. It might not drive a bunch of leases, but it could drive referrals. It could be a top of funnel brand awareness source that you never are checking that box that's working. So if you're looking at Meta to drive leases and convert, you're looking at it wrong because it's not a leasing machine. The purpose of Meta and the social outlets is a totally different thing than PPC or websites or ILSs. So I think that's the big thing. ILSs, PPC is supposed to be driving leads and hopefully leases. And so we look at that. I don't really look at social insights for conversions because I don't expect them there.
But I really want to dig in and really diagnose what the situation is. Is it the channel itself or is it the execution? And I like to say that when something launches that I've gotten it to the point where it is darn near perfect, but sometimes there's something that's missed. Or like if we're talking about an SEM campaign, specifically PPC, maybe there's some long tail keywords that we're not targeting. Maybe there's a local preferred employer that we need to be targeting as well as part of that campaign. So is it the channel itself or is it the execution? If the problem is targeting or the creative or the follow-up, we repair it. If the channel simply just does not align with the property audience, I will remove it 100% with no guilt.
Lead sources aren't for show, right? Every dollar has to perform. And so when it's time to kill something, you have to kill it and move on and reallocate that spend. The marketing piece is only part of the successful recipe. Are you priced right? Is your community even in an ideal location to live in? Is the building being properly maintained? What are you rated on Google? What are people saying about you on Reddit, right? So it's just so interesting, right? Like we have to take a micro perspective for sure as marketers. But I think at times we also have to take a step back and say, okay, from a macro perspective, what's going on? And am I asking the right questions of my leasing team, of my ops team? As a marketer, am I actually going on site and opening the wow fridge and seeing that it's fully stocked beautifully or it's empty, right? So I think sometimes we get overly caught up in digital marketing optimization, both from a marketer's perspective and an ownership perspective, that we forget where the loss is happening along the way.
I think it's a great call out. We've really narrowed in to digital here and particularly optimization, as I think it's just the conversation trended that way. But you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, the role of marketing is to sell the dream, right? Of this is what your life could be like living here. AI companies, no doubt, right? We're all selling the dream of the efficiency and the innovation, and look at the future. Meanwhile, we know that that agentic AI is a growing market, right? We're all learning every day on how to make it better. Marketing can't happen in a vacuum without a phenomenal product, without a phenomenal operations team, without a great on-site team, without a great brand. So those things have to exist together. I really like that.
I raised my hand, Alan, for two things. One, I feel like Ryan is living in my head because everything that he said was exactly what we talk about a lot is we can do everything possible to drive traffic to your communities, but if the experience, we sold them the dream, but if they get there and the experience is different, then we've lost that prospect. And I do think that there are so many great things about AI and efficiencies, but you still need to stand up. You still need to have a human conversation. Like everything cannot be touchless. I know we think it can, but it can't. The second reason I raised my hand is because I said all of that previously about Meta to only sit and stop talking and realize I don't believe any of that when it comes to student properties. I think socials are very important when it comes to student and you are going to generate leads and leases through the experience that they see on social. So I just wanted to correct myself because I didn't want somebody to think I had no idea what I was talking about.
All good. Thank you.
These are
Okay,
different.
cool. One last question on execution, and then I want to move us to like a hot take lightning round. So get ready. It's going to be hopefully spicy. Um, we're all dependent as marketers on our vendor network, right? They're crucial. We have digital agencies, we have creative agencies, we have performance agencies, we got brand agencies, and right. There's many layers of that. So maybe just some really practical advice for us. What's your approach to vendor management and making sure that partners are actually like really delivering value and empowering you to deliver the results you want? And conversely, how are you empowering them to make sure that they have the information they need and the strategic guidance they need so they can go out and execute every day on your behalf?
Let me give you some bumper sticker quotes that fit this. Transparency is key. Trust but verify is also very important when it comes to data and reporting, because often what you're getting from your vendor partners is going to be a little bit different from what you're seeing in your CRM. And that's not because necessarily they're trying to inflate their numbers. It could be that there's just a disparity in tracking and attribution, like we were talking about earlier. I absolutely 100% adore my vendor partners. They have helped me be successful, and I hope that in turn I've helped them be successful as well. That success is rooted in trust and transparency. If I have an issue, I will come to them and I will let them know. I'll be unfiltered, I'll be professional, but I'll be unfiltered and let them know. And I absolutely insist that they do the same thing with me and my team. So that trust and that transparency is a two-way street. But that's what underscores a strong relationship and being able to drive forward to success.
I piggyback on what Justin says. For 17 years, I was a vendor partner. They oftentimes roll out products before they're actually client facing and ready. And so I'm very skeptical about being the first to a product because that means I'm the guinea pig. I'm very cautious when it comes to that. The other thing is just I need to know what their definition of a lead is. And I need to make sure it matches my definition of a lead because somebody clicking on directions is not a lead in my book. I think what Justin said about transparency is so important that we can say, these are our KPIs, these are our definitions. Let's make sure we're aligned on those because I want to make sure that the data that I'm looking at lines up with what I want it to be.
Yeah, maybe I'll just jump in for a second. We definitely pride ourselves on pushing industry boundaries here at Fitzrovia, and vendors are always going to be a key part of that, Zuma included. Shout out to you guys, Alan. But that said, I would say that not every vendor is going to align with our values here at Fitzrovia, and I would say that that's perfectly okay. It doesn't mean that they're not good at what they do. It just means that they're maybe not the right fit for our organization. And, we're really looking to collaborate with partners who share our vision about, reinventing rental living here in Canada. and helping to kind of reimagine an industry that's been so archaic and outdated for so many decades, right? And when you find a good vendor, you wanna hold on to them, you wanna keep them close, because it's truly magic, right? And the ones that just don't work out, that's okay. Maybe they'll work for others.
Thank you all. Really amazing input, and I think super valuable, both from the vendor perspective and, of course, for marketers listening to this webinar. So, okay, cool. We're gonna wrap it up here, but before we do, I'd love to just have a couple of like quick fire. What's one thing that marketers are doing today that you think it's just gonna be gone in 2 or 3 years? Like, we're not going to be doing this in another 24 months.
Manual production of written copy. It's already kind of going away as it is now. So
So true. I would agree with that. I would also say that it's hard to believe that in 2025, we're still manually pulling reports from dashboards and then dropping them into Excel and then cleaning up those Excel charts and making them pretty. Uh, I'm just gonna say it because it has to happen. That can't happen in 2 to 3 years time, right? That shouldn't exist anymore, and it won't.
It's coming. We're not there yet, but we're close. We're building out a custom reporting dashboard where everything goes into one place. And it's I mean, we have a team of a small marketing team that manages over 700 apartment communities. Trying to run reports has been a nightmare for years. And so we're right there. We're right there.
Okay, last question. There's hopefully, I think these jobs still exist with AI stealing everybody's entry level jobs, but there's some young marketers, right, that are listening to this, that are looking to be the next of you, right, to sit in your seat with your experience. What's the thing that if you put your arm around their shoulder and take them under your wing and you give them a little whisper of advice? Uh, what would you tell them? What would you tell yourself, 20, 30 years ago if you were coming up right now in this era with this technology, sort of boom that we have available to us, but we're still fundamentally solving, human problems, right? Which is where do I want to live? Where am I safe? Where am I happy? Yeah. What are the tips and tricks you would share with your marketers?
Well, maybe I'll jump in on it, and I know that Amanda and Justin are gonna laugh, but like, how many times have you guys had a client that almost has a hotel ready building and they don't even have a name of the building or like a brand or like a website, and they're like, "Hey, Justin, Amanda, go at it." And our responses as marketers are like, "Oh my god," right? So I guess the one thing that I would say to marketers, if they have this type of control, is start early, right? Good execution. Like this industry comes down to one thing, and that's good execution, right? And good execution takes time. It takes collaboration. And specifically for new lease ups, strategy creative, like you got to be starting 12 months ahead of your initial registration period. It really does take that much time, and marketing is not unnecessary. It is not unimportant. It is what drives your traffic. It's what builds your brand and your reputation. We still need to flip the model on its head.
I was going to say AI is not going to take your job. Not knowing how to utilize AI will take your job. So, like, you need to stay up to speed. Also, to Ryan's point, make sure that your portfolio is diversified, what you can do. A lot of people are like, I want to do social media and that's all. Well, you have to know all of marketing. And to Ryan's point too, branding and design is like super important because you can't outsource all of that to AI. There still has to be a human element to it. So just diversify your knowledge and don't silo yourself to one piece of marketing.
mine would be stop copying what your competitors are doing. Most of them are just guessing. Build a strategy based on your data, based on your audience, and based on your property's needs.
That's a good
Amazing,
one.
amazing. Well, team, I've learned a ton on this. Personally, I have like 3 more hours of questions, but
Let's do
yeah,
it.
we'll
Let's
we'll
do it again.
we'll save it for round two here in the future. But yeah, Ryan, Amanda, Justin, thank you so much. You've been an amazing source of knowledge and wisdom, and we really appreciate you sharing it with us all here. So, Until next time, we'll see you on the next Zuma Expert webinar series. Thank you. All right, again, just want to share a personal thank you to Ryan, Amanda, and Justin. Incredible insights. I feel smarter for having had the privilege of interviewing here on the pod. So thanks to everyone who joined for this episode of our Multifamily Operations webinar series. And remember, smart marketing isn't about just spending more. It's about spending smarter, analyzing your data, aligning your teams, and letting efficiency become your competitive advantage. So until next time, keep making every dollar count.